All right. IRL events are becoming more and more a reality. We've had a couple of pretty good sized events actually. So we had YBM case tournament. There was an event in Colorado. I've noticed that locals around the place are starting to get bigger and bigger, and that's a good thing. Because let me tell you, I've done some remote dueling. I played lots of dueling book, and there's really no replacing, especially when it comes to dueling book, like touching physical cards. So, an aspect of touching physical cards, you got remote duels, and that's, in my opinion, a huge improvement over dueling book. People tend to be less toxic when there's more of a personal interaction. However, it doesn't replace the fact when you're in a venue and the sights and the sounds, not the smell, but the sights and the sound are all there, and the pressure that comes from you got the time clock, which is present in remote duels and sometimes on DN or dueling book, if you're in a tournament. But as players finish their games and start to get up, you kind of feel that pressure. You're feeling that, okay, people are getting done around us, so time is becoming close. And then you get the moving around in the background. And as you're like one of the last tables to finish up, people start to gather. And then that added pressure, you're like, oh, I can't mess up here in front of all these people. These people are watching, it's making me nervous. That intensity is kind of like what I miss. I think that also helps to separate the different types of players. There's players who do extremely well on dueling book, but it doesn't translate to IRL, and that's simply because they're not used to those external factors for whatever reason. It could be, just the social anxieties or what have you. But at any rate, it separates those types of players, and I feel that myself, especially being older, that I crave that social interaction. Being able to more or less stare down your opponent and sense the pressure in them, put pressure in them. Your bluffs are more effective, where there could be like like a tap on a table or a supposed leg twitch. The way you shuffle your cards, the different rhythms. You start off with the cards, and then you can like change the speed, lay your cards down the table, kind of fold your hands. Yep, that's good. No response. And you can just dictate the tempo just from little body languages and little signs like that. And then conversely, opponents who aren't used to that, they can give off tells. You can like sometimes you can tell immediately the confidence level in your opponent just from by making those reads. So yeah, I'm really excited for IRL events to really come back in full swing. The other thing is with dueling book, especially, it warps our concept of what the meta really is. So on dueling book, everybody has droplets, everybody has beer servants, everyone has prosperity, everybody has Droitron. You know what I'm saying? When IRL, especially like in my locals, been going full string, a majority of the people still have like Etco decks, decks that were top tier during Etco. They don't have like the latest cards. They never got around to picking up Lightning Storms. You understand? There's still players who don't have their copies of Harpy's Feather Duster. And so when you go to an event, and if you've been playing Dueling Book all this time, you're all ready to go. You're like, yeah, I got my nibs in the main. I got my cycle readers in the side. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take out the meta. I got the perfect side for dragons. And at that event, you got a bunch of people playing Zoo, just pure Zoo, like 28 hand traps and 3 monsters or something, and then a bunch of traps. So these are all things to consider as things pick back up. Consider what's likely to be your opponents, not so much on their skill level, not so much on their income, but just basically what your meta is going to entail. Now, don't be fooled. Places like California, like LA, San Diego, places like Philly, Chicago, Dallas, Kansas City, you know, places that historically have a good sized meta, you're going to find a whole spectrum. You're going to see people there playing salad, playing salmon grade. And then you have some players playing guru. And then you'll have some Drytron players. But at the same time, all those meta decks can still get taken out by the rogue decks, because if the mentality of those players isn't correct, they're like, well, I should just automatically beat the rogue decks. Well, you know, you lose a die roll and they open, you know, floodgates. You're just not winning. And then you win game 2, obviously, because you win first. In game 3, they open floodgates and you need to open out. You could be knocked out just like that. So this is going to be exciting times. I can't see what a more accurate representation of what the meta looks like on real events, when people have only access to the physical cards and not any card they want because of Dueling Book. And again, I don't mean it from like an elitist standpoint, you know, because people don't have these cards. I just feel that it's just not an accurate representation of what really exists out there. Because there are people such as myself who do have access to higher end decks, but just refuse to play them. I don't like Drytron. I have Dragon Link, but it's like the deck is like 2 years old and it's like kind of boring to play, in my opinion. It's, well, not boring, it's just stale. And even if I were to go to a large event, I just wouldn't take the deck because it's just gotten stale. It doesn't excite me. It's not very fun. And so those are things that you have to consider. I heard people talking about, well, Dragon Link's really fallen off. You know, there's nobody playing it. Again, it's ask any of the high-rated players. They're still afraid of Dragon Link because it's a damn good deck. But the deck has been around so long, and it's like current form. You know, it's just like maybe minor tweaks from set release to set release, but essentially it's the same deck, and people are just kind of bored of it. It's gotten stale. So down in the comment section, let me know what you think about IRL events returning. I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts. Check links in the description. Check out my Discord, have the link down below. If you'd be so kind to help me out, you check out my Patreon. And we'll talk to you next time.